You're watching the Sporting Time Show with host Doug Thompson. Sponsored by Jewelry Barn and Pawn Shop.
Good evening and welcome to the Sporting Time Show on WNKY NBC 40. I am Doug Thompson, your host.
And I'm Joe Brunk.
It is great to be here tonight. And Joe, I tell you what, everybody has been through so much the last 6 months. It is so exciting to be back on air and really talking about sports, because we weren't quite sure just up until about a couple weeks ago that we were going to have sports.
Man, it felt like a coin toss one way or the other pretty much until we kicked off a football last night, to be honest. But we got it done. Some games have taken place. That step towards normalcy, and that's what sports can bring in a time like this, right? Is that it's another thing that we are used to. It's a comfort zone. It's something that it's fall football. Right. That's what we want to see, and that's what we got last night. And to continue with that, man, it's so great to be back. I agree with you, Doug. Be back in studio, to actually have people that know what they're doing in studio with us. It's good times.
Well, it's a lot of fun. You know, first of all, we came out of March and we were prepared up at Rupp Arena. So much was going on, Joe, and basically the rug was pulled out from everybody. Mm-hmm. And, you had fear, you had anxiety. There's still a lot of that going on, but you're right. Sports has a way of kind of bringing people together. And, these kids needed to be back in school. The kids needed to be back on a team as long as it was safe. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that you and I learned at the Football Media Day was that the kids are very serious. They worked very hard this summer with their coaches, and they followed every single rule that they had to do because they wanted to play sports so bad. And it's just not football. I mean, we're going to be covering volleyball. You have cross country, you have golf, and you have soccer. And all of these sports were up in the air just until a couple weeks ago. And, KHSA did a great job laying out the plan to get these kids, back on the field, back on the course, whatever they needed to do. And I'm just so happy because there are a lot of states out there that do not have sports this year for their high schools.
Yeah, and guidelines were set, and kudos to the players and the coaches and everybody who worked so hard to meet those guidelines and sometimes even exceed those guidelines in an effort to keep kids safe. And because of that, they put in their work, and now they get the reward of getting to play in fall sports.
Yeah, and, when you go back to the spring, the kids didn't really learn any lessons. I mean, it was heartbreaking, not only for the student athlete, but just for the student. They gave up prom, they gave up all different kinds of things. Whether you were in a band and you were going to go compete in the spring, they missed all of that. And you and I were able to cover a senior showcase baseball game in June, late June, and it was so much fun to see the graduating seniors go out to the Hot Rod Stadium from around the 4th region and play a baseball game. And, they did the social distancing, they wore their mask. Of course, they didn't do it when they were on the field, but, everybody's taking this seriously. And I think that's what differentiates, Kentucky from perhaps a Michigan where, they marched on Lansing, they went and they tried to convince them to have high school sports, and they may come around. But our kids and our coaches have done a fantastic job to get us to where we are today. And, you as the voice of the Sporting Times Broadcast Network, and Brent Thompson, also one of our broadcast guys, we're going to be out there. We're going to be covering live streaming, football, soccer. You've even done some volleyball.
Every now and then. Yeah, I love volleyball. That's something that I did not know I would be able to get into. Man, volleyball's a lot of fun. It's fast. The pace is great. Crowds are awesome. They may be some of the best crowds, in all honesty, are volleyball crowds. Well, you wouldn't think that, but it's true.
I remember listening to your first broadcast, and one of the funny things is you just admitted, I'm not sure the terminology that I'm using right, is going to work, but we're going to bring it to you. And if we can figure out a way to do golf, that would be fun. That
would be Doug's sport. The time when Doug would take the helm on a broadcast, golf would be the time to do it.
I will do that, but we will certainly do soccer. But, talk about the storylines this year. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into them in some of the later segments. Our top 3 football games coming up. You and I are going to discuss that. But whether it's cross country, whether it's golf, we got some fantastic storylines, and we are going to cover them. So I cannot wait for that.
Every year brings new stories, man. Let's get to it.
I know, it really, really does. And you can follow everything on stfanshop.com. Joe will fill you in on how you can cover that. But let me tell you, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we've got a special guest that is in full stride right here on WNKY, NBC 40. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Sporting Time Show. Well, our next guest really needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Lexi Paskowitz is a senior cross country and track, I want to say star. I know, she's like, oh, stop it. For Bowling Green High School. Lexi, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to see you. You know, last year you were on our show, and would it be fair to say that you had a breakout season last year?
I would say so. I dropped 2 minutes in the 5K, and like no one really knew about me before, like during sophomore year, and I had kind of like just started in the running world, and then in junior season I kind of just took off a little bit.
No, you literally took off, and I love cross country. That's a sport that I never was able to play because anything over 10 yards was not, good for me. But I'm going to brag on you a little bit. You won 5 out of the 7 meets that you had last year. You placed second in the Owensboro Fast Cats, which there were hundreds of runners, right, in that thing?
Yes.
It was huge. You were top 25 in Louisville, which was a huge meet as well. And then you finished in the top 20 in the state of Kentucky while having a compression fracture.
Stress fracture, yes.
Stress fracture. So, you were having such a great season. When did you know at the state meet that something wasn't right?
It was, the state course is a very hilly course, and I had known several weeks before that I had a stress fracture, like beginnings, just because it was bugging me after runs. But I was like, I'm just going to push through the end of the season, see how it goes. And of course that didn't end well. I was going on one of the downhills, and it just felt like someone was like hitting my ankle with a sledgehammer.
Ouch.
It was not good.
No, that is not good.
Yeah, but I mean, I just still finished, and that's what I'm proud of myself for.
So, absolutely. So how long did it take you to get over that injury, and where are you today with your training and preparing for this season?
It took me about 5 weeks of no running whatsoever to get over it. Thankfully, it wasn't too long. I've known some people that have been out for like 2 months. Now I'm a lot stronger. I've recovered, and I'm back to running fully. So, I mean, yeah, everything's working out pretty well right now.
So I have to ask you, as a junior, thankfully you weren't a senior last year, but as a junior, what was it like to go through March and have all this stuff come up? What was it like for a student athlete?
It was tough, especially because I had just recovered from a stress fracture, and I was like, you know what, like this time I'm going to do well at like track, and I'm going to do everything right. I'm going to be healthy and just have a good season, and then everything is just canceled. And it's just really heartbreaking to just have everything planned out, and you've worked so hard. I know a lot of athletes work really hard over the winter just so they can be ready for the spring season, and to have that taken away is really rough. And I can't even imagine how tough it was for the seniors, because I mean, spring sports, it's like the last hurrah before the end of the year, and just to have that taken away is really rough. But I'm glad that I was only a junior, and I mean, it still sucks to have your junior season taken away, but hopefully it seems like we're going to have a senior season. So I'm hoping everything continues to work out and we're able to race.
Yeah, because you lost out in track and field.
Yes.
I mean, that's, everybody lost out on that as well. So, forget about the athlete for a second, but as a student, what was it like not being able to participate in maybe prom or some of the things that were planned out for you, and not being able to go back to school and be with your teammates and with your classmates? What was that like?
It's really tough because I consider myself a fairly social person, so I like interacting with people and just talking to people, and even just those small like everyday interactions were just taken away. And I think like looking back on like prom, it's something that everyone kind of like remembers, like your junior and your senior prom. It's just like nice little high school memories, and just not even being able to have that, just it sucks. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad again that I was a junior, and now looking forward to my senior year. Hopefully some of that will come back, but
Well,
yeah, it's just rough.
you know, what a great junior year you did have in cross country, and we are super excited to watch you this fall and see what happens in cross country, and then again in spring for track and field. Lexi, thank you very much. Congratulations on all your
Thank
success,
you.
and good luck this year. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, more of the Sporting Time Show right here on WNKY NBC 40. We'll be right back.
You're watching the Sporting Time Show on WNKY 40. Like us on Facebook and follow ST on Twitter. For the athletes, for the game. With host Doug Thompson.
Welcome back to the Sporting Time Show. It is my pleasure to introduce the sports director here at WNKY, Taryn Johnson. Now, he doesn't really need to be introduced, but Taryn, it is great to see you, and thank you for joining us on our premiere show.
Well, Doug, the pleasure is all mine, sir. I've long awaited, us getting together and doing this, and it's great to be on here. I really appreciate it.
Well, you and I had lunch the other day, had a lot of fun. We talked about a lot of things other than sports. But I did not know that you were a 2002 Olympian. Is that true?
Yes, sir. It is true.
That is not true. It is not true. But we do have a love for sports.
Absolutely.
And, I know that you came up from Nashville. And, can I mention where you came from?
Yeah,
Is that
absolutely. Yes, sir.
104.5,
Yes,
which
sir.
is the heavyweight sports station down in Nashville?
Yes,
And,
sir.
You came up during a time that things were really in flux here, and still, things are trying to get back on stride. But, how have you liked it, and how much are you enjoying it?
Doug, I've loved it so far. It's been such an amazing experience. I really got a good taste of what it's like to be a sports anchor in mid-March, I will say. I'd been covering WKU Hilltopper men's and women's basketball for about 2.5 months by then. Really just like full feet in, really getting into it. And then I'm down in Frisco, Texas, covering the Conference USA tournament, and everything gets canceled. The coronavirus pandemic really hits full-fledged on March 12th is the date, Thursday, March 12th.
Yes.
And that was a real interesting day, Doug, because it was like my welcome to sports anchoring, if you will.
Yeah.
I was down in Frisco by myself doing live shots, and I had to completely scrap everything that I had prepared.
Yeah.
Western's women were going to play the 1 p.m. Central Time game, and I was going to do just like a live lead-in on our noon broadcast, Soki at noon. And about 11:01, I'll never forget this instance. 11:01, I'm down in the hotel lobby printing off my scripts, and I get the text from our news anchor, Max Winans, who has gone on, but he says, check Twitter, and they just canceled the Conference USA tournament.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you've got to be kidding me.
And we talk a lot about the student athletes, and of course, they're young, and they're just, this is their opportunity. We've had our opportunity to play sports in high school, and we did that. But as media members, it was as odd and awkward and strange for us too, because what do you do? I mean, you're all of a sudden it just stops. The bottom falls out. Luckily, we have the ability to look back at history. 16 years to kind of rekindle some of the content that we had and do interviews with people that used to be.
Yes, sir.
But I can only imagine what it was like for someone that just basically got into the market and then it was gone.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge, Doug. I just kept telling myself that if I can do sports anchoring, if I can be a sports reporter or sports director in this time, it's never going to be more difficult than it is right now. It may be busier, but that's a good thing because we'll have games, we'll have things to cover. But the last 6 months has certainly been a challenge, but it's also been a good test of, being creative and kind of leaning on your creative laurels to be able to, put together a sportscast each and every night. And I'm very fortunate that the folks here at WNKY 40 have allowed me to continue doing sports, because it has been a challenge, but I think that's been a good thing. And it's been a good test to make sure and see, if I can still continue to do this. And here I am on the other side of it. And, I have been able to. But that's a very, very stern welcome to, TV broadcasting moment right there, Doug. You're not lying, because it's definitely been a challenge the last 5.5, 6 months or so.
Well, you're in for a treat. I can tell you that, because you have the opportunity now to meet with the high school coaches and meet the student athletes and really see the stories that they generate at the high school level. And to me, there isn't a better market that I have ever been in than where I'm at today. It's just filled with tradition, rivalries, you name it, you got it. And it's really going to be a lot of fun. And just wait. You will just fall in love with the high school aspect, and then you've got WKU on top of it, so it's a great mix.
Yeah, yes, sir. I got a chance to experience like the high school basketball postseason a little bit before everything got canceled. But even district play was such a blast. I mean, it was so amazing. It was so fun being back in the gyms. And Doug, I have said this as long as I've been in sports. There's just nothing like high school athletics when you got fans from both sides in the same gym in the same area. It's such a blast.
It's where it all begins, Taryn. It is great talking to you. I'm sure we're going to cross paths again here very shortly. But anyway, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, more of the Sporting Times right here on WNKY NBC 40. Welcome back to the show. Joe, we have had some great guests. Alexi is fantastic. Taryn, obviously he's not a guest. He works here, but
yeah, we're visiting him.
He's got a lot of energy. Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of energy. It was fun to talk with him, but we are in it, and you and I got to pick. By the way, I misspoke earlier. It's stfanclub.com. Yeah. I won't repeat the wrong one, but Joe will give you all that information at the end of the show. But you and I get to pick 3 games coming up next Friday.
Yeah.
Right? That we think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, certainly some games to watch as we get now the season's in motion. In the first week, you don't have a lot of games between teams in the same district. Now you're getting into that, and it's really interesting because, this is normally the time of the year in early September that you're seeing these matchups, but not in week 2 of the football season. So it gets really interesting and going to be a lot of fun.
I love the first matchup that you and I picked. Edmonson County versus they host Metcalfe County.
Yeah.
Metcalfe County last year was 1-9. Mm-hmm. And that one game that they won was against Edmonson County.
Yep. In overtime, I believe.
In overtime.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a spicy matchup, and you could tell during the football media day that they wanted revenge. Edmonson County wanted revenge. In fact, they also had another overtime win in 2017, and then they had a 2-point win against Edmonson County, I believe, in 2013.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, it is. And both teams bring back key playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Both quarterback and running back for both of those teams are back this year. So as well as they played last year against each other, they get another crack at each other here in week 2. Going to be a lot of fun.
So the Fighting Harbisons of Metcalfe County will take on Edmonson County. Now, Franklin Simpson will host Russellville. They call that the fight of the 100 because 100 runs between Franklin and Russellville, or, it's the fight of the cats or whatever you want to call it. But
yeah, a good old cat fight.
Franklin Simpson has a new coach. Max Cheney takes over. He played at Franklin Simpson, I believe, in the 90s. So he's the new head coach. This is going to be a great matchup. Russellville has not defeated Franklin Simpson in 7 seasons.
It's been a bit, and Russellville's had some years where they've been trying to rebuild this program, and little by little, they're getting a little better and a little better. We'll see how they can compete now against what is typically one of the better teams in this area in 4A. Who's kind of going through some new things of their own with a brand new coach. What changes will Cheney bring to the program? We don't know. He said there's not going to be a lot, but there are some new things coming the way of Franklin Simpson. We'll see what they are.
Well, Franklin Simpson started 2019 0-4. They reel off 5 straight wins.
Yeah.
They flipped the script, and they ended up going 7-6 on the season. And they did graduate a lot of key players, but we will see what they have in store for Russellville this year. It's going to be a great matchup. And then, I'm sorry, the last one, Joe, Greenwood hosts Logan County.
Yeah.
And the Gators, basically, they've had Logan County's number for a number of years. Interesting, and they have really beaten up on Logan County. But they didn't play Logan County in 2017 and 18 when they went, I believe, 11-1 and 10-2.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting matchup of a team that is kind of rebuilding in Logan County. And also Greenwood has got some of the skill players coming back. But they're ready to go. So this will be a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, the cornerstone players for Logan County who really brought a lot of success and turned that program around have all graduated. Yeah. And so now we'll see. Now they get to jump back and take on a 5A school in Greenwood. And it's going to be tough. I'm not going to lie. It's not going to be easy for Logan County, especially this early in the season with a whole bunch of new players. But, they're pretty well coached now. I think they're going to be up for the challenge.
Yeah, and, one of the things that Logan County had to overcome years ago was the fact that they I believe, went, 3 seasons without a win. They finally got that elephant off their back, and then they just explode in 2017 and 18. Everything is going right for them. A great team. Of course, tough district when you got into district playoffs. So, this is one of those games where you say, okay, how does Logan County match up against the Greenwood? Where are they going to be at in week 2? But it is a fun 3 games that you and I picked. And again, join us next week. Joe and I will pick another 3.
Yeah,
maybe they, you're going to tell everybody how they can get a hold of us. Maybe they would like to suggest a game, one of our top 3s.
Yeah, and talk about a tough match, a tough district. And Greenwood's in one with Bowling Green and South Warren. So that's tough as well. So,
real quick, Joe, how do people get a hold of us?
Find us on Twitter at Sporting Times. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thesportingtimes. And Doug and I have a podcast called Take 5, and you can catch that on the Apple Podcast app or on SoundCloud.
Well, I'll tell you what, that does it for the show. For Doug Thompson and Joe Brunk, have a great week. We will see you next week on WNKY NBC 40. Have a great week.